Welcome to Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. This is Series 3, and today's bite-sized podcast is called My First Concerto. Hi, Susan, how are you?
I'm well, David. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Tell me about your first concerto.
Well, the first concerto that I ever performed with an actual orchestra would have been the Bottesini Grand Duo Concertant for double bass and violin. My sister Jody played it with me.
Of
And
course it was.
of course. And so we played it with an orchestra on the North Shore of Boston. And the conductor happened to be both of my sister's longtime violin teacher when they were kids. And he was also, after my dad, who was my first teacher, bass teacher, my dad got to a point where he said, okay, you need to work with someone else. And so I went to him, a violin teacher, until I found a bass playing teacher. So it's really kind of a special thing. It was sort of, near my hometown and with my sister. I think it was a great way to have a first performance of a concerto.
Mm.
How about you?
Well, the first concertos I learned were the Capuzzi and Cimador because they were all exam pieces. And then I learned the Nanny Concerto with one of my students, Edward Nanny. But the first one I played with orchestra was the Dragonetti Concerto, amazingly written by Edward Nanny. And it was in a sports hall. So it's cavernous acoustic. It's unbelievable. And it was a big string gala. And so we were just part of this concert. And I can remember playing, and I couldn't hear a note I was playing because there's just no feedback at all. I don't know where the sound went. So that was the first one I did was the Dragonetti Nanny Concerto, it was a nice concerto. It's I've played it many times since.
Yeah. That's one that I never officially learned. I taught it to myself so that I could teach it to my students, but I never performed it. The first concerto that I ever learned, I did learn the Capuzzi, but I never played it with a pianist. I did the Dittersdorf Concerto with piano for concerto competition, and I won a full scholarship to college. So I have this really wonderful connection with the Dittersdorf, even though I never performed it with orchestra, because it's what got my whole college situation kind of squared away. And it's funny though, because when we were first talking about this, you said, "What's the first concerto you performed?" I was thinking, "Oh, Bottesini second." But then I thought, no, that's not the first one that I played with an orchestra. I had done it with a piano. Oh, and I did the Koussevitzky concerto with a piano a couple times. But the first one with an orchestra, of course, was Bottesini. I wanted to play all the Bottesini I could when I was in college because he's why I became a bass player. I love his music.
Lawrence Gray was my second teacher. He was a really fantastic teacher. And I had to play, often the third movement, the Capuzzi, for an exam. And he was really good, saying, well, you're learning the third movement. Let's learn the other two movements as well. So you'd learn the entire piece. And also, I don't know if you had it in America, there was a version of the Capuzzi by Francis Baines, which he published in the 1930s in F major. Because the original key is in D major, which I think he thought was too low. So he put it up in the most horrible key for bass, F major. And so I learned it in two keys. I learned it in F major and D major. And the same with the Cimador. The first movement was an exam piece for the Royal College of Music. And again, my teacher made me learn the other movements, which was nice. And then
Good.
yeah, and then he enjoyed the solo repertoire I was learning. And that's why he introduced me to Edward Nanny and the concerto, which was nice.
I love that. I remember when I learned the Van Hal concerto and I was in college. Oh, there was this big, massive confusion about which key to get it in. And was it solo tune or orchestra? It's in C, it's in D. And my teacher showed me the version he wanted me to learn. He said, only buy the one with this cover. And of course, I didn't have a cell phone with a camera in those days. So I sort of like drew a little sketch of what it looked like so that I wouldn't forget. And I went to the music store and ordered it. And I loved the Van Hal, but I only learned the first movement of it. And I love the idea of if you've learned the first movement, might as well learn the rest of it, right? I performed the first movement in a competition in my college for like an additional scholarship, like a stipend. And I loved it. I thought it was really fun. But then I've taught it and my students sort of lose interest because there's a lot of sort of repetition in a piece. But I like to add octave displacements to make it more exciting. But it's funny because I always say to myself, "Geez, I haven't played that many concertos."
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot more than I realized. I think that can happen, right?
Yeah. I
So
used to do solos with a little string orchestra in Bath. They used to meet up, yeah, a couple of times a year, and often they'd ask me if I'd be the soloist.
mm,
And they were very open. So I played the Van Hal with them. And in fact, I did the Capuzzi. There was some, maybe 200 years since he was born. I can't remember. So we did it in D major. But I played in solo tuning. So my part was written in C major, and I put it up a seventh. So it puts it in the solo register, and it works so well in that key. So the Capuzzi is it's a lovely little concerto. It's not great
yeah.
music. It's not.
But it's accessible. I think it's a nice option for younger players to be able to feel like they're learning a concerto because their their colleagues in the other string sections will be learning a lot of concertos, and there's not a ton for young bass players. So I think that that's a
These are
nice
nice little
option.
concertos. These are ones which are very accessible, which are really nice. And I do like the idea of learning the entire concerto, not just one movement.
You might as well. If you've started it, you might as well finish it. Well, I would be very interested to hear what our listeners' first concertos were, too. So put your comments in, everybody. And thank you for listening to our third bite sized podcast from Bass Talk with Hagen and Hayes. Thank you to Double Bass Headquarters and GraceGalleryDesign.net. And we will talk to you all again soon. Bye.
I